All right, that's the parts of a climbable tree. One of the issues that had during the trying to figure out the falling of the squirrel when it hit the branch is that it would fall and then bounce off the walls. Basically, the walls have the colliders uh, that the squirrel would fall into. Um, it would the tip of the branch is up here and it would fall down and run into the walls. When I want the squirrel to come down here to this point, um, so what I had to do for this is create another collider and basically test what layer that the squirrel was on. If I can get that up here, if you take a look at the base object, there are two colliders. One is a physics collider and one's a trigger. And then there's a script, check if squirrel can pass. The that script right here, basically it goes and detects if the squirrel is on the ground or not. You can see right here, if the position state of the squirrel is on the ground, change the physics collider into a trigger, and then when the squirrel has gone past it, change that trigger back into a physics collider. And then I had to apply that to each of the different types of objects that we had in here, including the bushes and so forth. Let's see here. Next, the actual falling of the squirrel, the movement of the squirrel. Went and created some different scripts here. Up until this point, um, the squirrel would basically just be moved based on uh, the player choosing to move it left, right, up, and down, and that this what you see here selected is how that the squirrel was moved around. Now that I have different states for the squirrel, uh, the physics is applied differently to the squirrel. Here is the squirrel on the ground. On the ascender, I am using the climbing speed, the climbing value of the squirrel. It's a little bit slower, um, and it can move, the squirrel can move up and down the ascender. Once it's up in the branches, I'm calling that a platform. Would also be the roof of a building. Um, I want to have the squirrel basically stick on that platform, so I'm applying a small value of gravity, so the player can move the squirrel left and right, but can't basically move it up and down. And then gravity is applied to it as well to try to get it to go down and stick onto the that um, surface of the platform. So we start out as a velocity, and then we add the force of the gravity. And then up here, we have platform gravity at -1/2 and free fall gravity at 9.8, which is the standard uh, physics. And then down here, we see the actual in free fall. Uh, the player cannot control the squirrel as it's in free fall, uh, so there is no player move value in here. It's just falling, and then it's applying and adding the force of gravity into it at the -9.8, and this is using the switch function based on the position state of the squirrel. Let's see, anything else that we've added into, we see the different values. There's also a jumping um, item, which I'm going to be discussing next. The jumping magnitude, down below the switch statement, is the jumping section. Um, and then there's also an invert, turning the squirrel a different direction on the Y value when you see the squirrel with its head down on a tree. Squirrels are able to climb facing downward, and that's what that allows that to do. And here's the invert squirrel function, and it's the Y value that is reversed here, and then the enter and exit ascenders, and then the update values that I've already spoken about. Okay, let's go back to the jump in the item here. We have the jump button. The script on here is very simple. Let's see here. In the detecting the touch events, let's see here. It is a very simple script. It just sets a value on the squirrel controller to true, and that value is start jump. And in the touch controls, all it does is right there. It sets it to true, and the mouse effect, when I'm testing it here in the Unity environment, it simply sets it to true. In the mouse or squirrel controller, when that value is set to true, it immediately sets it to false and then performs a number of actions on it. It determines the direction that the squirrel is facing. If it's facing to the right, it's a positive direction. If it's facing to the left, it's a negative direction. And it just starts to record the Y position of the squirrel, and then it sets it in free fall. But before exiting out of that, it applies a velocity to the squirrel, taking the jump magnitude and multiplying it by the direction, either 1 or -1, depending on the direction it is, and then doing that jump magnitude as well in a Y direction. So it's basically jumping in a 45-degree angle, and then the force of gravity, because it's in free fall, begins to affect it. And so the better the jump value, the more that the squirrel can jump forward. So as I said earlier, I did not complete everything. I'm rating myself at between 90 and 95% complete for this. I got the major sections done. The parts that are not completed will not affect my next milestone. My next milestone is completing the multiplayer and social functions. I anticipate that most of the missing features are going to be easy to get working correctly. The animations where the hat is flying all around, I just need to get into the player animator and tighten up those numbers and making sure that everything is correct. Let me find my player character, go into the animator. The animator is much more complicated than I had. I have added climbing. I've also added an idle facing up and facing down. And it's just the numbers in the transitions that I need to go in and straighten out for most of the features that are in there. Some of the other features I am anticipating will be added when I work in the adventure area. For example, the behavior of the birds and so forth. And so there we go. Thank you.